Cool, perfect. Sorry for the hiccup. I've never done Twitter live stream. I'm used to YouTube, and this is the first time using it. And it's a pretty funny experience because usually with the other platforms, you have a more direct feedback. But I guess this will do. Welcome, everyone. We have a very exciting day behind us, where we finally been able to share with all of you the official launch date for IOTA Rebased. This is nothing short of sort of like a recreation of IOTA, a new beginning, and something that is truly exciting for all of us, and hopefully also for all of you, because this really helps us to march forward with IOTA in a completely new way. And so what I'll talk about today is a little bit of a overview of how Rebase came to be, especially for those who are new to IOTA, who are excited about IOTA again and want to learn more about the history and want to learn more about why we have done Rebased. And then I'll talk a little bit more about what is our strategy with Rebase. How do we actually want to move forward? Because I think with the current market downturn and with the current market volatility, it's always an important question to think about what do we actually want to achieve in the market and what can we do, right? And so this is why we're looking into this very strategically, and we want to share that positioning that we have with IOTA with all of you. We'll also talk a little bit about the ecosystem that we started building and how we're going to move forward with the upgrade that is going to happen on the 5th of May. All right, so 5th of May is the upgrade, and what you guys can expect after that. Um, what we also do is next week we'll do another YouTube AMA, or like rather a YouTube show, where we're going to have several team members from the ecosystem team, from the engineering team, from the product department, and also from research talk a little bit about their work and what they're excited about with Rebase and what you can expect from them. So I think next week you guys can expect a little bit more of a deep dive. So for those of you who are new to IOTA, I think this session today is perfect. For those of you who are OGs in IOTA and follow everything, I would say that the session next week will be most exciting for all of you. And so let's get into it, right? So before we talk about the upgrade itself and what to expect, I think it's important to talk a little bit about the history and how Rebase actually came to be, right? And I think one thing that is important to highlight is this is actually the 10-year anniversary of IOTA, right? 2025. And on the 2nd of October this year, we're going to celebrate 10 years of operating in the market. And that's a huge, huge achievement, right? And I think that is something that too few people also know about right now. And I think it really shows how IOTA has evolved over the years and also how IOTA has been part of this entire maturation of the crypto market, right? So IOTA started out with this with two core theses, right? Which was first of all that we focus on real world adoption to bring real world use cases and assets and users on chain. And the second thesis of IOTA was that we would really focus on further improving the distributed ledger protocol by using a DAG instead of a blockchain. And over the years, we've obviously continued to develop this and build it out. And I think a lot of these assumptions that we've had when we started IOTA have also changed, right? And this is also something that is very important to keep in mind for people who are part of this crypto space, right? Because the only constant in this market is change, because everything changes all the time. And unless you adapt to the changing market, projects will inevitably die, right? Because the assumptions that you have when you start out with a project are very different to the assumptions that probably hold true in the market, right? Because like when we started IOTA in 2015, DeFi wasn't even a thing. Smart contracts weren't even a thing. And so this is why it's always important for projects like ours to constantly adapt and be willing to change everything about the project fundamentally to make sure that we can compete in the market, to make sure that we're relevant. Because IOTA was one of the big winners in 2017, in the 2017 bull market, where we've really shown and have led the way, so to say, when it comes to real world adoption. And as much as a lot of that took longer to get to fruition, get longer to get to the mainnet, it was also up to us to sort of like steer the ship in the right direction. And what we have done is we have started steering this entire IOTA ship, right, the entire IOTA boat, since I would say 2021, by making three core changes to IOTA, right? The first one, which was a very critical one, is that instead of just being a German nonprofit foundation, which actually brought with it a lot of limitations, like for example, being limited in how we can spend our money, only to nonprofit causes, no marketing, no ecosystem support. So we were really limited in what we could do with IOTA and what kind of support we could give to the ecosystem. And we made a significant change by actually introducing two new entities, one in the UAE. So we set up the first DLT foundation in Abu Dhabi, which was a major milestone because we also then funded that entity with a significant token treasury, which I'll talk about next. And the other entity that we set up was an association in Switzerland. So instead of just being one entity that is behind IOTA and was strictly limited and regulated, we now actually have three entities that were able to support IOTA without any restrictions and without any limitations, right? So that was the first step that we took to reposition IOTA in the market. The second step that we took was to make sure that we actually have an ecosystem fund, right? Because IOTA, many people don't remember this, but IOTA was founded in 2015. And at that time, ICOs weren't really a thing. So it was more about, hey, you have a community, you incentivize the community. And because we were very idealistic when we founded IOTA, we effectively gave 100% of the token supply to the community. Right? And that was actually sort of like the norm back in those days. But obviously, over the years, as the space became more commercialized, I would say, it also became more of a thing where more of the token supply was reserved for the team, and then also investors, and then also for ecosystem funds. And so it was very difficult for IOTA to also provide the necessary support for growth and for the ecosystem. Well, that's why in 2022, we set up this ecosystem fund, which was then there to support the entire community and the ecosystem, and then also support the further development and growth of IOTA. Well, so around 30% of the token supply was then created to set up this ecosystem fund so that we can actually compete in the market. So that was a very important step so that we actually have the necessary resources to compete in the market. And then the third and the final step that we have taken is that we have completely changed the protocol, right? As you can see here, up until recently, IOTA itself was a scalable ledger, right? We could do like about 1,000 TPS, 5-second confirmation times, and this was important to then actually introduce, like an important decision that we made is that we would then actually need to introduce programmability to the layer one, so that we actually have smart contracts, so that we actually have like infinite possibilities of creating use cases and applications on IOTA, right? And so this is exactly where we've taken two steps. First, introducing the EVM. So the EVM launched around 1.5 years ago, and it was a very important intermediary step to help us bootstrap the ecosystem, also to familiarize our community to Web3. Right, so this was really the first time where IOTA kind of evolved from being an enterprise blockchain to becoming a competitive network in Web3. And but we obviously knew from the start that that wasn't the end goal, because the end goal for IOTA was always to have programmability on the layer one, right? Because the EVM was more of a layer two network, but we really needed programmability on the layer one, because that is really what would unlock a lot of the token utility for the IOTA token, right? Because of staking, because of all the new use cases that would be possible on the layer one, because we could also finally have DeFi applications on the layer one, and obviously also because with that we could drive a lot of transaction volume and a lot of activity on the network. So this is why, like, these are the three steps that we have to take to really sort of reposition IOTA in the market. And the most important step, obviously, with the relaunch of the network or the rebasing of the network, is the protocol upgrade that is now coming onto the mainnet on the 5th of May. So I think this is also like a little bit of a history And I think it's very important for people to understand where we're coming from with this, because operating in this market for 10 years has really given us a lot of insights and understandings of what is actually necessary to win in this market. And I think oftentimes, because of the tokens, because of the speculation, because of also a lot of uncertainty in the market, it's very difficult to predict what the future actually looks like. And as I said before, unless you're willing to adapt to the changes in the market, it is going to be very difficult to compete. And we've built a lot of amazing use cases and partnerships over the last few years, where it really became very obvious that we needed to change the layer one to add this programmability to make sure that we have one of the most scalable networks in the market to be able to compete and to make sure that all of these adoption and all of these new use cases are going to happen on the IOTA mainnet. Right? And so some 2 years ago, we actually made the decision to adopt the Move VM, because we understood that Move was probably one of the most exciting new smart contract languages outside of the EVM. Right, the EVM itself was more limited. It's also sort of like older, right? Because it is the first smart contract virtual machine and smart contract language with Solidity that came into the space back in 2016. Right, so Move is a lot more safe, is a lot more scalable as well, the Move VM, and it's just really a lot more fit to our use cases, which are really focused on tokenization, on real world adoption, on high throughput use cases. And so this is what we really brought to the market with the Move VM. One of the critical decisions that we've made is to actually adapt one of the most exciting protocols in the market that we saw at the time, and that protocol was built by Sui, right? And so I think this is also where we want to give a lot of credit to the Sui team, and they've really pioneered a lot of they've basically pioneered the Move VM, and so it was also our decision to effectively adapt the protocol and rebase IOTA with this new protocol, and then take this new base to innovate on top of, right? And so this is really what helped us to effectively leapfrog. And instead of wasting years and tens of millions of dollars in resources to build our own virtual machine and build our own smart contract language and build everything from scratch, it made a lot more sense to take what is out in the market, take the best protocols, the best concepts, and use these learnings that we've made over the past decade to build the best layer one distributed ledger, right? The best layer one blockchain. And at this point, I'm very confident in saying that we are one of the most exciting layer one blockchains out there in the market. So what we really have to offer is that, first of all, full decentralization, right? So IOTA will have 150 plus validators securing the network. I'll talk a little bit about bootstrapping of the network afterwards, but we will have 150 validators securing the network, which is one of the most decentralized layer ones out there, right? And it's a delegated proof of stake network, so everybody can actually stake and secure the network. And for staking, you will earn around 10 to 15% APY. As an OG IOTA holder, I think this is probably one of the most exciting uh, uh, aspects of the new protocol, because I think all of us have always been waiting to stake our IOTA tokens and earn more IOTA tokens, and now it's finally happening. So I think this is going to be very exciting, because now we really have real token utility with IOTA, starting with the staking and then adding on top with the ecosystem support of different applications. Then very importantly, obviously, we finally have programmability with the Move VM. We continue to support the EVM, while the EVM will continue to exist on the layer two. And we'll also continue to have the layer zero bridge and all of that. So it will all be there, but obviously a lot of the ecosystem is now going to be built on the layer one using Move, because it simply offers us complete new possibilities of which kind of use cases can be built on the network. And then second to last, like one of the most important parts of the new protocol is that it's really scalable, right? So we can do up to 50,000 transactions per second and have sub-second finality times. So for those of you who've been testing the testnet, I think it's really incredibly amazing using the new protocol and seeing transactions confirm almost instantly. And just interacting with that, right? So I think based off of that, we can really say that IOTA is going to be production ready, and that many of these use cases like what we're doing in trade and logistics, like what we're doing in finance and tokenization, um, are production ready right now, right? We have a production ready layer one on which you can reliably build. And that's really a true game changer for us. And then the last point is obviously that we also have very low fees, potentially even fee-less transactions, using our gas station, so that it will be much more simpler interacting with the protocol. Right. And so I think this package is really incredibly exciting because now we can unlock new possibilities with dApps on the network, and then we can also finally have a production ready network on which our partners and our ecosystem can reliably build. For those of you who haven't tried it yet, I can definitely recommend to try out the testnet, because there's a lot of new like the wallet you can try it. You can also try out some of the dApps and then interact there. And so I think this is like a little bit of a background on where we're coming from with Rebased. So let's talk about the upgrade itself. And as we mentioned, we have been doing we've had a public testnet, and we've also done several audits since of November of last year, because it's incredibly important that when we perform this upgrade, that it is safe and secure, and that we don't expect any hiccups or network downtime. So this is also why it took the necessary time it took to make sure that everything is ready. And now we're basically ready. So in about 2 weeks, the network is going to go live on the IOTA mainnet. And first things first, there's not going to be any token migration, right? For those of you who have been part of IOTA previously, in previous network upgrades, there was a token migration. There was some certain changes where you needed to be very proactive in doing that. That is no longer the case, right? So it will be a very seamless migration, where all that you need to be doing is to just use the new IOTA wallet, which is actually in the browser, is a new browser wallet, right? So I can really highly recommend everybody to download it and play around with it, and make sure that you've used it before. And we will no longer have Firefly. I also don't think that Bloom will be supporting the new network. So it will be the new browser wallet, and we'll also have some new mobile wallets that are going to support IOTA, like Nightly, and some other wallets that are going to come. There is also going to be something about Nano S where it's being deprecated. And so there you do need to have some manual installation, um, and install the new IOTA Ledger app that is going to be compatible with the mainnet. So this is stuff where we will also be providing more support for you guys to make sure that it will all work. But it should be pretty seamless and easy to make sure that your wallet is going to be connected with Ledger, right? And so it should all be there. So it should be a pretty seamless interaction for all of you to make this happen. The other point is exchanges, right? Like all the major exchanges where IOTA is being traded today will support the upgrade. They've all completed the upgrade, right? So Binance will support us, Upbit, OKX, Bithumb, and Huobi, and so on and so forth. Like all of them are going to support the new upgrade, and there will not be any downtime when it comes to trading. So the IOTA token will continue to be traded on those exchanges. The only downtime that you can expect is that there will probably be some downtime for deposits and withdrawals. So all the exchanges are going to provide more information about that over the coming weeks, coming days, probably, and provide their support, and also notify about the downtime and how long it might take. But I think this is a very important point, that all exchanges will continue to support IOTA, and there's not going to be any changes to that. Let's talk about the network, right? Now we finally have a fully decentralized network. Before that, we sort of had the proof of authority chain with around 10 validators. Now we are really growing the network and getting some really important and exciting new validators on the network to secure IOTA, right? And what we're going to do is we're initially bootstrapping the network with 12 validators, right? So those 12 validators are going to be part of the Genesis ceremony. And gradually over the next few days, as the network has been bootstrapped and the blocks are being or the network, the transactions are being confirmed and everything runs stable, we will then gradually increase this, I think, to around 30, 40, 50 validators. And then over the coming months, we will also eventually reach around 150 validators. So I think for all of you who haven't tried it yet, you will be able to easily stake to one of these validators in the network, in the wallet, and then help to secure the IOTA network. So I definitely can recommend everybody who's part of IOTA for a long time to actually stake on the first day, right? Because that is probably the most important day. And so I think it's going to be a big ceremony to be part of the first checkpoint that will be issued as well, right? And the first epoch that is going by. And so I think make sure to rush to the staking start, because maybe there's also some gifts and rewards that you can expect by staking early. In terms of the shutdown, right? So the network will be shut down, and there will be some downtime that you can expect for a couple of hours during the day. It's just not possible to do it without that, because obviously, like the state needs to be transferred and migrated to the new network, and so there is some downtime that you guys can expect. And after that, we'll do a Genesis ceremony where the new network is going to be bootstrapped, where the validators are going to form or publish their signatures, and it will all be rebooted, right? So the entire new network will be launched, and then we'll also gradually reactivate the IOTA EVM to make sure that they all run smoothly. So I think all in all, it might take a couple of hours for this to fully complete. And we will be hosting actually a live stream on Twitter so that all of you can participate there and get more information on what's happening. And then once the new network is live, you can all download the new IOTA wallet, and then you should be able to see your balance right there. Right. So I think this is something that should be pretty straightforward. So yeah. There's also some other wallets that you can try out, right? Like the Nightly wallet, I can really recommend it for mobile. And then we also have the new block explorers, which looks actually pretty nice. IOTA EVM will be continuing to be supported, as I've mentioned, and there should just be some short downtime, but otherwise it will be able to continue to operate smoothly. It will actually continue to anchor into the layer one. So I think there's also some amazing work by the team. So it should be on the same sort of like security setup as we've had previously with the Stardust network. And I think that should be it, right? So I think we have a pretty exciting day on the 5th of May, where we are going to perform this upgrade, where we are going to fully change IOTA and get started with an exciting new future. So I can really recommend everybody to be part of that day and get your ledgers ready so that you can be part of the first cohort to stake and secure the new IOTA network. I think that's going to be a very historic day. And it's a huge achievement, you know. So I'm personally really excited about this, and I think the IOTA team has really done a tremendous job in making this happen. So I want to thank everybody in IOTA, and also thank everybody in the community who has been part of this, right? And it isn't easy to sort of define a new direction for a project, but I think at this point we can really say that we've done a great job in that, and that we are on a new path of something a lot more exciting and something much bigger, right? And that's really important. Let's talk a little bit about the new network and what we're going to do with it. And this is something that I've talked about before, right? Now we have a very strong vision with IOTA, which is to really bring the real world to Web3. And we are equipped with an amazing technology, right? One of the most potent and exciting new layer ones. And what we really need to focus on right now is to make sure that we have the right strategy in place to make sure that we get the adoption for our network so that we can continue to grow and continue to thrive in this market. There's many different strategies in the market, but I think what I can confidently say at this point is that all of these strategies that general purpose layer one blockchains have been pursuing over the last years don't work, right? Because what they're effectively doing is they're incentivizing adoption by airdropping some tokens and then hoping that the adoption, right, the use cases and the users are going to stick around to bootstrap the network effects and make sure that it's sustainable. I think at this point we can really confidently say that this just doesn't work, right? Because the big problem is that the adoption just doesn't stick around because people just use these airdrops as an incentive, as a farming incentive, and then they go to the next one. And I think IOTA as a project that has really like positioned itself as one of the leaders in real world adoption, I think we've also made this conscious decision by also making mistakes, by the way. So it's not like we haven't made mistakes, but by making mistakes and by learning from others, that this is not a strategy that we want to pursue. And instead, what we are going to focus on with IOTA is that I would say that majority of our time and majority of our focus is on being vertically integrated in international trade. And the other part of our efforts, so I would say 60-70% of our time is going to be focused on international trade, and 30-40% is more focused on this sort of general purpose Web3 adoption. And right now, we're preparing like a very long document on this, sort of like defining this new thesis for IOTA, which we'll share with you guys over the next few weeks. And we'll really go into the details of this and why we think that this is the best strategy for us to get the adoption that we want to get. But it's very interesting because I think there's very good analogies also with AI, because in AI you have the same issue where this being this general purpose technology just means that you're everything and nothing, right? And you're trying to do all use cases, but you don't do them really well. You might be okayish in some of them, but you're not really known for it, right? And so I think being vertically integrated really means that you go much more deeper into an industry, into a sector, and you're able to create the necessary partnerships, the necessary integrations, and to develop a moat, right? So a defensible business that nobody else can compete with. And for IOTA as a layer one blockchain, um, who has been doing real world adoption since 2016, I think we've made so many lessons over the years that we also understood that where we see the biggest opportunity right now that can, first of all, create tremendous impact for the world, and second of all, can really make sure that we get the adoption that others cannot get, is an international trade, right? It's the backbone of our global economy. $33 trillion of goods are transported across borders every year, right? That's such a huge, huge mind-boggling number of how much value is being exchanged between countries. And this is exactly why blockchain was created, right? Like blockchain is actually this technology to enable this coordination between people, but also between enterprises and sovereign nations, right? Because effectively, we lack the trust between each other and we lack the necessary open infrastructure to facilitate this trading. And if you look at international trade today, it is still largely based on paper documents. There's no digital standards. There's no infrastructure, common infrastructure that everybody utilizes so far. And so, in our view, this is just a tremendous opportunity, also because of our work in this market, but also because this is really the backbone of our global economy, and because we see this as an amazing opportunity to prove the value of IOTA, to prove the value of blockchain, and with that really move forward and bring all of these users, right, activities, and assets on chain. And so I think from our point of view, this is really the most exciting strategy when it comes to driving the adoption and fueling growth for IOTA. So maybe a little bit of a background, right? So IOTA founded together with Trademark Africa TLIP, which was the first, is sort of like the predecessor of Twin. And Twin is effectively an infrastructure that is built on top of IOTA to digitize trade, right? So what we enable is that we make it possible to share data along the supply chain and make that data um, uh, 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 fully secure, fully auditable, and make it possible for others for like third parties to share that data with others. So we started out with digitizing the data. The second step that we then took is that we actually issued the identities for for traders so that they can then interact with each other. And then the third step that we're taking is we're actually tokenizing the assets. Right. So by first digitizing the data, second of all, issuing verifiable credentials, right, digital identities, and then the third step, by tokenizing the data, really means that IOTA becomes the backbone of international trade. And I think this is really something really incredibly important to highlight how big of an opportunity this then also is for IOTA to establish itself as the backbone of an entire industry, right? And so we actually set up the Twin Foundation, which we set up together with Trademark Africa, with the World Economic Forum, with the Tony Blair Institute, Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, and also the Chartered Institute of Export and International Trade. And right now, this Twin Foundation is really taking off, and there's a lot more partners and new entities that we're bringing on board that are really excited to work with us. So I think we with IOTA we really have a shot at the moment to transform global trade and to make sure that IOTA gets adopted in the real world and that we bring all of this adoption on chain. So here's like an example of how this interface also looks like. And it looks very boring on paper, but what's really exciting is that this really is fully running on chain on the IOTA mainnet, right? And we're talking about tens of thousands of transactions that are happening every day between these countries, right? And this is really something that can drive a lot of adoption and a lot of value that will be generated on top of the IOTA network. Right. And so basically our thesis at the moment is that we are going to really focus on being vertically integrated into international trade. Right. So we're focused on digitizing the data first, which is what Twin is for. We started Twin in Kenya in 2019, and now we're also expanding it across Africa and other countries, and we're also expanding it in Europe and the Middle East, and then really from there grow it more internationally. Second thing that we're doing is we're issuing these digital identities for these traders, and then the third thing that we're doing is we're tokenizing the assets, because trade finance is really the backbone, or is really one of the most important financial sectors in the world, where there's $1 trillion financing gap, right? And so this is really where we see a way for us to bring these assets on chain and then make it actually Web3 compatible, and connect this with DeFi as well, so that we can provide new ways to actually finance traders in the supply chain. So I think this is all like a highlight of what our strategies with IOTA and what you guys can also expect. And there's going to be a lot of very exciting announcements and new partnerships coming out over the next couple of weeks and months, where we're really showcasing how we have new partners, including countries, right, that are adopting our technology and are building and integrating IOTA into their stack. And what we're then going to do is we'll obviously start to bring these users on chain, and then also build the other side of this, which is sort of like the DeFi, the Web3 side, because we really see Web3 as a backbone of this reward adoption that we're driving, right? So, for example, having decentralized lending protocols for trade finance makes a lot of sense, right? And so this is why we need to set up this infrastructure right now to get that on chain and to get these applications built. Or for example, things like DEXs, right, where you can also trade these tokenized assets. All of that is going to happen and is going to come on chain on IOTA. So, as I've mentioned before, I would say 60-70% of the thesis, of the adoption thesis of IOTA, is to not be general purpose, but is to really focus on international trade and to be vertically integrated in international trade, right? Bringing these billions of assets on chain on IOTA, make them tradable, make them investable, and create partnerships that nobody else can create. The other part of our adoption strategy is to also seed this more general purpose adoption, right? So this is why we've also done our first hackathon, like the Moveathon, where we've received over, I think, 100 applications. And June 6th is when we're going to have the finals in Singapore. And this is only the first of many new events that we're doing this year. So I think there will be a second one about the MENA region, in the second half of the year. So for those of you who have not started or who wanted to participate, don't worry, like we are going to have a second edition of this as well. And we're also going to provide a lot more support with our grants program, right? And we do really want to support projects that also focus on the right verticals. While so tokenization and global trade is really the main thesis. And so we want to really support builders that are focused on this. We've actually made some very exciting investments into new applications in commodities trading and also in trade finance. So I think you can expect some of these new announcements and applications soon as well to showcase what we're doing in that area. We also focus on DeFi, right? DeFi applications, payments, and consumer applications and tooling and infrastructure. So with that, we're going to see the infrastructure and the ecosystem around IOTA. And we also got the first really exciting applications on the new IOTA mainnet, right? First is liquid staking, which is a very important one so that all of you can stake and participate in the DeFi ecosystem. So this is a very exciting application so that you can really unlock new liquidity with IOTA. And this is also officially being supported by the foundation, right? By IOTA. And this is definitely something which will be ready at mainnet launch. So I can recommend all of you to try it out and look at it. So it looks very nice, actually. And the second thing that we already have is pools, which is like a DEX, and where you can start trading and creating and minting tokens. And then we also have some other exciting applications like stablecoins, like bridges, and money markets and RWA dApps. So all of that is going to be announced very soon, so that all of you can then also look at it, and we have an ecosystem to play with once the mainnet goes live. So just in summary again, right? We have a very exciting new base technology with IOTA Rebased. We're going to really make use of this new network by driving all this real-world adoption, all these new partnerships that we've been working on over the past few years, and making sure that this adoption happens on the IOTA mainnet, right? We're not interested in private networks. We're not interested in permission networks. We really want all this adoption to happen on the mainnet. And now with the new ledger, with the new network, we really have the scalable infrastructure to make this happen, right? And our core thesis with the ecosystem adoption is to first of all focus on international trade, right, where we are being vertically integrated to onboard users, onboard assets, and create new applications specifically for international trade. And a second thesis for us is to see this general purpose Web3 adoption by focusing on the right verticals, right, in DeFi, and bring that adoption to the network and bring that new token utility to IOTA. And next week, we'll probably do a deeper dive into this with all of you. And maybe as a final point that I wanted to highlight with all of you is, of course, once we actually have the mainnet upgraded, right, on the 5th of May, um, it's not the end of it, right? It's the start of our new journey. Because now we really have an amazing new technology. We have a production-ready network on which we can really drive the adoption for IOTA. So our product team has been building some really exciting new products around digital identity, around the gas station, around audit trails. And we're going to bring those to the market to make it easier to build on top of IOTA and make it easier, yeah, to innovate with IOTA. But at the same time, we also continue to innovate on the base ledger, right? Because we want to be at the top. We want to be at the forefront of DLT innovation. So our team actually, over the last couple of months, has been working on Starfish, which is our new consensus protocol, that in our view is even better than the existing one that we're going to adopt because it offers more resiliency. It offers a better way for the network to scale, especially during high throughput. And so the team is going to focus on actually implementing this and getting it to the testnet, validating it, and then bringing it to mainnet. So I think some of the core innovations that we're going to bring to the base ledger, right, the IOTA network, but then also on the application layer are really going to help differentiate IOTA even further. And so I think I really want to invite all of you to this new start of IOTA. And I think it's a really exciting new journey for all of us. So I think all in all, I hope that was a good introduction where we dive deeper into Rebase, where we're coming from and what we're doing and what we want to do and what's happening on the 5th of May. And next week, we're going to do an even deeper deep dive with some of the team members where we can talk about some of the specifics between some of these different features and different products and departments also that we have within the foundation. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed the session and I'll see you guys next time. We have within the foundation. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed the session and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys. Bye-bye. Further ado, I hope you all enjoyed the session and I'll see you